We've already talked a lot about the Mi 11 and the iQOO in this comparison. Besides super fast charging, another feature that is impressive on the iQOO 7 is its camera module. Since we considered the iQOO as a gaming phone, we didn't have a lot of expectations for its camera setup. However, when compared to the Mi 11, we found that its camera is actually the most surprising part of this comparison. The iQOO 7 features a 48 megapixel main camera with OIS stabilization, a 13 megapixel wide-angle camera, and another 13 megapixel portrait camera supporting 2x optical zoom, while the Mi 11 comes with a 108 megapixel main camera also featuring OIS stabilization, a 13 megapixel wide-angle camera, and another 5 megapixel macro camera. For the main camera, both modules are able to produce excellent colors with decent resolution, but if we look closer into the samples, we find that the iQOO 7 was able to present wider dynamic ranges, especially under high contrast conditions. The iQOO 7's primary camera was more stable to present good amount of details, with the right exposure over extreme bright and dark scenes. Compared to the iQOO 7, the Mi 11 struggled a bit with noisy shadows and less detail. And the HDR mode was more likely to be activated on the iQOO 7, so that's also a part of the reason why iQOO often took the lead in presenting a better dynamic range. Even when HDR mode was activated on the Mi 11, iQOO still captured better samples with vivid colors and accurate exposure. We also found that while the iQOO 7 captures a wider dynamic range of vivid colors, 27 megapixel resolution samples shot on the Mi 11's main camera was able to handle more complicated scenarios with sharper images. But they both have poor control over the purple fringing issue, which may occur in some complicated scenarios with high contrast. And for its night performance, the Mi 11's night mode didn't simply improve the brightness of the image, but also paid more attention to noise control over dark areas for a balanced exposure. On the contrary, the iQOO 7 had a more aggressive exposure for brightening the whole image, which did look impressive at first glance. However, when we looked closer, it's not difficult to find that the samples shot on the iQOO 7 are a bit noisy. And on the other hand, the Mi 11's night samples had a pure image in low light conditions. So overall, the primary camera of the iQOO 7 does better in daylight, while the Mi 11 does better at night. The samples that we got from their wide-angle cameras was pretty similar to what we had on their main camera. The iQOO's wide-angle samples also had better dynamic range and better noise control, while the Mi 11 this time had to deal with the purple fringing issue. And the wide-angle cameras on both models had a consistent color preference. The iQOO's wide-angle shooter had higher saturation, while the Mi 11's tone was a bit closer to real life, even if it was a tad bit cooler. When we turn to the night shooting, iQOO 7's wide-angle camera has better performance and captures more details in the dark areas, but it's still a bit noisy. The iQOO 7 also features an optical 2x portrait camera. The samples shot on the zoom camera had a slightly better clarity and sharper details than the 2x photos shot on the Mi 11. Notably, the Mi 11's zoom-in photos are cropped from the image shot from the primary camera, and it doesn't activate the 108 megapixel mode to get better clarity. So when we took the samples from Mi 11's high resolution mode to compare with iQOO's optical zoomed-in photos, the gap clarity was much smaller. So here we suggest that if you want to use the Mi 11 for zooming into objects, it's better that you take a 108 megapixel photo and then get the image you want by cropping it. But no doubt the iQOO 7 with an optical 2x camera is the winner in this category. For macro shooting, due to an exclusive macro camera, the Mi 11 had a much closer shooting range and better image presentation. During our test, we found that the Mi 11's white balance was not so smart. Usually the images shot on the Mi 11 were more likely to be cooler, especially when the subject had warmer tones in real life. The issue of color bias was more serious. Besides, the shooting experience on the iQOO 7 was also better than the Mi 11. No matter in normal mode or in night mode, the experience was much smoother on the iQOO 7 without having to wait long for the shutter. As for their video shooting, we shot a few video samples, and let's check out which one is better at filming. So from the last two videos, you probably have learned much about these two models. As a flagship phone focused on high performance, the iQOO 7 isn't as powerful as we expected. However, its super fast charging efficiency and the camera performance definitely impressed us. Compared to the Mi 11, we couldn't find any major software bugs on the iQOO model either. But in general, as we mentioned earlier in this video, the software optimization of the Snapdragon 888 is still an issue. And being the first two models powered by the 888 chip, they still have a lot of work to do in terms of optimizing their performance. And after testing two phones with the new chip, we'll just suggest you to not expect much from the Snapdragon 888. What's very interesting is that Qualcomm just released the Snapdragon 870, which, as it claimed, should be a bit better than the 865 chipset. But will it become a popular alternative to the 888? Hopefully it will. So that's it. Which one will you pick, the iQOO 7 or the Mi 11? Or none of them? Please let us know in the comments down below. And if you think the video is useful, please give us a thumbs up and click the bell icon for notifications to keep yourself updated on all our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. This is Kieran from Gizmochina, and we'll see you soon.